I broke it without.
Jim Torchio came up with one of the biggest plays in the game. Can you just describe the growth that you've seen from him and what it is that he does so well to make quarterbacks and make plays like that?
Yeah, obviously it was an incredible play. We needed it. 17-play drive to cap it off with a 100-yard touchdown going the other way. It was really, really impressive. I mean, he just has such a knack of timing, right? So much of being a ball hawk is understanding how to use that vision on the quarterback and showing up at the right place at the right time. And he's had that from day one, and it's really exciting. Set the school record, right? Luckily, I've got to see the 99 and the 100. But really cool just to see him grow as a leader, become more vocal. He's had such strong leaders ahead of him, and now he realizes it's his time to be that guy, and really cool to see a guy kind of have that growth throughout his career.
How have you seen him kind of show that leadership, whether it be during the offseason or now these last couple of weeks?
To me, the number one thing is just in the meeting rooms, at the walkthrough, stuff like that. He's so much more vocal than he was. Those other guys were such strong communicators, and he just was able to just kind of sit back and maybe hit guys more on a one-on-one basis. But he's much more vocal, kind of day in and day out with the group, making sure the energy is there, the attention to detail is there, and then just seeing him work. I thought his focus, kind of his intensity going into this year was at a different level than it's been in the past. Not that it was bad before, but you just see that urgency, as guys get older, and it's fun to see him kind of grow and become more confident.
Did you recall what your message was to him when he was being recruited here? Because he had a bunch of offers. He had a Cal offer. What did you say to him about coming here and turning down all those offers?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, family and himself, they knew a lot about UW with his sister going to school here, so really didn't have to sell the school, the education, anything like that. It was just what's the opportunity. Obviously, with the walk-on program, I can speak on that pretty well, and just how I saw him fitting, how his skill set and kind of football IQ from offense to defense, the things he was asked to do in high school and was really good at, I think was really intriguing to him, how he was going to be used in this defense, and he's been that for a long time. He's been on the field for a number of years, and maybe a little nervous early, about 2019 or whatever when he started getting out there. But really from the first game against Northwestern, I think 2019, he comes in, has a big, huge hit, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, the moment's not too big for him. He's going to go in there and have a lot of success.
It's one thing if a Wisconsin kid turns down scholarships to walk on here, but when a guy from California does it, that's not the norm. Were you surprised? I mean, I knew there was a background here. But
yeah. I mean, you're always a little surprised. I mean, the family dynamics and all that stuff plays into it, but for his parents really to trust him to bet on himself, essentially, right, and go out there and earn it and prove it. And most people aren't in the situation to be able to do that if they have offers and have the possibility of getting money. So you really kind of give it up to his family, and for him to have that conviction to bet on himself and say, this is the defense and this is the place I want to be at, and I'll make it work. It takes a lot of guts, and very appreciative for that.
He has about as many interceptions as he does starts so far in his career. That nose for the ball, was that something that was apparent from the start, or how did he kind of develop that?
Well, it sounds like his coach sucks if he's not playing him more than that. But yeah, he has that knack for the football. I mean, I tell people a lot, like every time he's staring at the quarterback, it's usually a good rep for him. He's a guy that just understands the spacing and the timing of route concepts and kind of where he has to be and when he has to get there. It's hard to teach, and he just has that knack, and you try to find ways to get him in positions to play off of the quarterback, and we've built in more and more things throughout the years for guys like that, and it was huge for us last year, and obviously starting out the box this year as well.
Austin Boone got his first snaps on both special teams and defense. They've talked about him several times over the last few months, but what has stood out about the way he's been able to come in to earn an opportunity to play right away? What is the skill level that he brings on both special teams and defense?
Yeah, I mean, he's a focused kid, very mature and focused, and he wants to do things right. Very, very talented, very athletic. He can fly, great size and speed. and still learning some of the nuances of our defense, but see ball, get ball. He's really good at that. And first rep, it's good to see him just go run the alley and put a big hit on a guy. I mean, that's what he feels really, really comfortable with. You add the special teams element to that, he's going to continue to grow within this defense as the season goes along and get more comfortable. But from a physical standpoint, it's pretty impressive the way he can cover ground and kind of his willingness and ability to tackle out in space.
When we talked to you last week before the game, you talked about on-return being more aggressive. It looked like you tried to do that. I know he lost some yardage on that one. What did you see in general? Not a lot of chances, but what did you see from him? Decision-making and how he went to be more aggressive?
Yeah, we want to be aggressive back there. We want to make plays. We have to be smart. I think he forced the last one a little bit, maybe trying to create something that really wasn't there. And a lot of times that comes from the fact you go an entire game and opportunity hasn't come. I think if he catches the first one a little bit cleaner, kind of ran in on it aggressively and it drifted on him, I think if he catches it cleaner, he's in a good spot to let that athleticism come out. He's done an incredible job throughout camp, just being consistent with it and kind of trusting, really working on how he's catching the ball and where his eyes go after he catches it. I'm expecting him to continue to improve. I think if he catches a little bit differently, it's a different story. And then the last one, I thought he forced it a little bit.
Another thing is, back in the day, the general rule was for a returner, put your heels on the 10, top of your head, let it go. Has that changed in recent years because the guys been able to check it up sometimes 5?
Yeah, those guys are so much better as far as down on the ball inside of the 10. Most people has moved that back to that 8. Is it 8 in a step? Like the way that these guys can hang it with the Aussie influence and stuff like that, the ball lands a lot softer than it used to. So we've kind of moved it back to that 8-7 yard line. If it's a punt where it's pretty good hang time, you can usually rely on those not checking into the end zone. Obviously, if it's either more of a line drive, sometimes you get that gray area where it's not quite a plus 50, drop it in there punt, or if they just hit a rocket, sometimes you can feel the tempo difference of it and kind of let those hit the ground. But yeah, you have to tweak the rules a little bit the last 5 to 10 years. That guys are getting a lot more consistent with it.
With Cedric, you mentioned last week he hadn't played a lot in the pickle spot before. What did you see out of him on Saturday, and what was really his first start there?
Yeah, really pleased with what he did. There were some nerves. It's funny, you see some of these older guys coming in here. It's new environment, new defense, new guys, right? The stadium is different, and I think our guys were a little bit nervous going in. They want to make a great first impression in a role that he really hasn't been in very often, and played a great game. Really did. There's a couple decisions I think he'd like to have back, but he gets his hands on the ball early. And I know there ended up being a penalty on the play, but I think he's becoming more comfortable in that role and excited about it. It's kind of what's the game plan this week type of mentality, and what do these different calls mean for me? How can I kind of play around with my disguise and stuff like that? So excited, for him to continue to grow in that role throughout the season. He'll play on the outside as well, more than he did week 1, but excited to see what we can do with him in the slot.
I know you're focused on the season, but in the background, there's been a collective that's been launched for Wisconsin, the varsity collective. That stuff's sort of always going on around. As a coach here and a former player, how valuable is Wisconsin being involved in that now? What do you think that means for the future of the football program and athletics in general?
Yeah, that's the new landscape of college football. I mean, you're going to have to compete in that space somehow. Doesn't mean, as Wisconsin in most things, I don't think we see ourselves having to be the leaders in those areas, right? We do have the education, we have the city, we have the culture, we have a lot of things going for us. I don't feel like in anything, whether it's facilities, kind of what we sell these kids, we feel like we have to be number one and all that, but you got to compete. And it's just exciting for me being a former player, and obviously with my situation, being a walk-on and having success before I was on scholarship, you kind of think of what could have happened in my case or in other players that have come through here. I mean, it's exciting. It's something I don't spend too much time on, but it's a big deal across the country, and I'm glad to see Wisconsin getting in the race and finding ways to be competitive and reward players for the work and the time that they put in.
When we talked to Paul on Monday, he was asked about Alexander Smith and Clark. He said we need to see them in practice, especially Clark, 2 days. Can you share what you saw from those guys the last couple days of practice? Do you anticipate they'll be ready to go?
Yeah, hoping so. I mean, those are tricky injuries. Hamstrings for guys who got to hit 20, 21, 22 miles an hour. It's always difficult. You're going to be smart. I mean, so much of it just comes to communication with you and them. How does it feel? Can you let it go? Because as a defensive back, if you're thinking about it, it's not ready. You have to be able to play free and just react. And that's the hardest thing to simulate in a training setting is that the reactionary style of what we have to do. If you're guarding that at all, you're going to get hurt again. So a lot of it is getting them in that practice setting. And how'd you feel? Oh, I had to think about this. Well, okay, you're not quite there yet. You have to get past that point. So it truly is day to day as far as those guys. They're close. Hopefully we'll have them available on game day, but it's a little bit too early in the week to tell.
You've got depth at safety now that Hunter's injured, but it's really 4 guys that haven't been around and been out there where the bullets are flying with your defense. What is your comfort level to give these guys extended snaps and eventually one of them probably move into a full-time role as a starter?
Yeah, obviously tough to hurt, not to lose Hunter to an injury. Not quite sure how long. It's going to be a little bit. He just was so consistent for us, really going back to the spring and the summer through fall camp and even in week 1. It's going to be a little bit by committee. It's great competition. These guys have been getting after it all camp, and I think it's close enough that they're both going to play. They're both going to have their roles and split that job a little bit, take a little bit of load off of them. And some of the young guys you mentioned in Austin Brown and Titus Toller, guys like that who are right on that brink too of pushing into the 2 deep. Well, now they're going to be right on the edge, and I love to play guys. I love guys to get on the field and have a role within the game plan, and it's just finding out what's going to be the best one for each of those guys and kind of play them around Torch, who we know is really consistent in his role.
And then with Muma, how did you just grade his first start, and what was it like just to see him kind of complete that comeback after everything he went through the last 2 years?
Yeah, I thought he did a great job. He took his technique from practice into games, which sometimes with guys with little experience, game experience, they struggle with that. And he flew around, man. He was disruptive. He tackled well. There's plenty of little things. We did a great job. Obviously, we get the shutout. We get some turnovers. We get some production in the backfield, whether it's sacks or TFLs. So much stuff to clean up. It still looked like a week 1. We know it wasn't as clean as it needs to be as the competition level rises throughout the course of the season. But I think we did learn a lot about our guys. And the number one thing that I hit on our staff and our players is just, what was your technique, right? What was your pad level, right? Did you get tired? Like, you're really over critiquing all this stuff early in the season just to get guys to focus on kind of the process of it and how you got there, not necessarily just the results.
When you look at Watson on tape, how does he look, and how has he maybe changed since he was over here for you guys?
Yeah, to me, I think he's a little lighter. I think he's a little more explosive than he was here. He did a great job last week. He lost the 1 fumble, but outside of that, he runs the ball hard. Not necessarily an overly complicated run game. For them to have a guy like that who can kind of bring his own blocker at times is really big in that scheme. And I thought he did a great job of running the football for him, and obviously put up a good amount of yards there in week 1. We gotta bring it when we tackle him. He's obviously a strong, powerful guy that'll be highly motivated coming into this game.
You faced a lot of up-tempo offenses. What's the challenge of the coup grade that you kind of deal with?
Yeah, I mean, it's always communication. First time of the year, right? As you go through the season and see it more often and your guys are more comfortable, it's not something our offense does a ton. So it's communication, it's a little bit of that conditioning, it's staying consistent with your technique even though things are moving fast. And I think we have a veteran group in a lot of areas that I think can handle that, but we're going to push it all week and make sure that on game day there's no surprises to it.
Jim, what have you enjoyed about having Jay Shaw around since he transferred in, and what do you think he can continue to add to this defense?
Number one, it's how he works. He's very, very consistent and detailed in his job, and I think anytime you have young guys and can point to a veteran who's had success, right, has done a lot of good things on the field in his career, and you just say, watch him. Like, just sit back, watch his technique, watch how he goes through practice and kind of the business-like approach he has. I think that's huge for a team. And he's a different personality. I love his personality. He's not going to hide anything, man. He's going to wear his heart on his sleeve. He's going to say what's on his mind, and I think it challenges guys sometimes who aren't used to that type of personality. But I love it, and he's been a lot of fun, and I think I've seen a lot of growth coming into this program from where he was day one to where he is right now. It's exciting to see a guy who's a veteran, who is a mature kid, continue to grow on and off the field.
Sometimes an offense just makes plays, you have to tip your cap to them. Some of those throws down the sideline on the early on first down. Was that them making plays, or was that you guys? Was there something that you saw that you could have done differently in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, there's always little things we could do different. I mean, they hit the double move. I thought we could have added on to the pressure a little bit quicker, potentially got the ball out. But from a throw and catch standpoint, I mean, couldn't put the ball in much of a better spot under duress. Same thing with Jay on the sideline, back shoulder. He makes the adjustment the second time and almost intercepts it. You know, he did a great job. So there's little things down the field that you can adjust and tweak, but at some point you got to tip your cap to them, and there's little things we can do to make it better for us. But they made a couple plays.
Jim, Ricardo Holman was another guy who mentioned some nerves to start the game. How long does it take players to get over that, and for a defense playing together for the first time, how long might it take for them to gel?
I think the nerves aspect, everyone's a little bit different. You know, everybody's a little bit different. He didn't play like he was nervous. You know, the thing you see a lot of times with young guys is they play so fast, right? Their tempo just gets out of control, and thought he did a good job. He's made huge strides. Last year, when he went in there, you could see a different guy. You're like, this isn't the guy that showed up on in practice during the week. And so I think he learned a lot from last year, getting some experience. I thought he was smooth. He played a great game for us. He's competitive. He's very consistent because I think he knows who he is as a player and what he has to do to win week in and week out. And, you know, every game, you know, every live situation, a young defense and a defense with a lot of new faces can get on the field. It's huge because, you know, we make a lot of adjustments. That's what this defense is about. Week in and week out, within the flow of a game, we tweak a lot of things. So every time we get our guys on the field in those competitive situations, we're going to learn a lot about each other and kind of how they handle the flow of the game.
Jim, John was seen in slot coverage, also in the two high shells and blitzing. Do you anticipate him being more in the back end with the new safety rotation, or do you think that it'll be a similar use in the slots for you?
He's going to be all over. You know, that's what I like about this safety group for us, and really the DB group in general, is the versatility, the flexibility we have. I think we have corners and guys who play nickel for us that can handle our safety roles. I think we have safeties that can get down in the box and do some of the things that we ask our linebackers to do. So, I mean, I see that continuing as we go throughout the season because I think that is one of the bigger strengths. You know, we got a lot of guys that can cover man-to-man, but I think we got a pretty high IQ group of football players that we can use in different ways and kind of move those chess pieces around and make things difficult on a quarterback.
And as a follow-up, like you said, with the versatility, do you envision some of those other cornerbacks stepping in instead of safeties in some of those certain packages?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they can. It's something I've been comfortable to do in the past. There might be some different faces doing it. It's been, you know, last year we didn't necessarily have to move those pieces around very much because of who we had, but I think you'll see some guys in different spots, and I think we have a number of guys that are ready to compete. You know, a number of these names that have been thrown out there already. We got a lot of guys that are ready to play significant snaps, and it's just finding out what the best role for them is going to be, and how do we make it simple enough where they can play fast and not have to go through some of those growing pains.
When you face a team that wants to run this much tempo, how do you handle that rotation that you clearly put in week one? Is it, hey, this is your series, or is it a set number of plays for each guy? Or how do you go about that?
There's a little bit of a flow of the game, right? I mean, you get a long series, like to rotate after that. I mean, a lot of times like to get 2 or 3 series in a row, let a guy get into a rhythm a little bit before you take him out. But you can't do that with everybody. You know, there's times you're gonna try to get a guy on there for a series and he's gonna sit for a little while just to give somebody else a blow. But yeah, I think it's making sure everyone's available and kind of understands through the course of the game when they're going to be up, so they're they're prepared for it. Early in the season, it's generally not as big of a deal to me because you're coming off a camp, you're rotating a lot of guys. There's so much unknown within the game plan, right? Last week, there was a lot of unknown with what we were going to see, so I think everyone was kind of on high alert to be ready to roll. Whereas sometimes you get through the course of a year and, okay, it looks like this is my role today, or it looks like this is when I'm going to go into the game. Guys kind of get into that comfort zone, and sometimes you got to snap them out of it, understanding that things can change quickly. You know, guy breaks a shoelace, gets hurt, whatever, like all of a sudden if you're not ready to roll, and you're on your heels a little bit.